Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are going over all of these support combinations. So we're going to be looking at the support combinations, we're going to be ranking them, I've put them fully in order here. You see organized play across the top here, but that is not because this is exclusively an organized play review. It's simply because the combinations that are used regularly in organized play are the best combinations. In fact, I will zoom out and show you the entirety of the list here for those of you that want to see it, but we're going to be going through these one at a time and talking about why we've placed them where they are, what they're good at, what they're bad at, how they're used, why they might work better in ladder, why they might work better in organized play. But overall, this is our tier list top to bottom. So let's go ahead and get into our first combination here. And we're in our organized play tier, which is our top tier, and we are going to see that our top list is Zen Brig. And this is probably going to be surprising to a lot of you who aren't regular organized play watchers, and that's because this is not a terribly effective support line on ladder. And the reason this isn't a terribly effective support line on ladder is, well, this comp is very, very good. It is not terribly high sustain. Your sources of sustain are Harmony Orb, Transcendence, Inspire, Rally, and Repair Packs. And that's not a lot, because once we take Transcendence and Rally off the board, we've got Inspire, but this is mostly going to be used as a support line with dive comps that like to spread out, so it doesn't really help in the poke phase. Inspire only helps once you've actually collapsed and hit the dive, and only if Brig goes in for the dive, so Inspire has limited time value. So it's really just looking at Repair Packs and Harmony Orb for part of that, and that's not a lot. Harmony Orb is 30 health per second. It's certainly not what Bapt gets us. It's certainly not what Anna gets us, what Moira gets us. We're not using a big healer, what people would call a main healer. We're using a flex support. Zen is a flex support, and a main support. Brig is a main support. Main supports tend to be the ones that peel a bit better. Flex supports tend to be the ones that, we'll say, put more pressure on the match as a combination of damage plus healing. Pressure being a somewhat nebulous term, but you can think of it as the tug of war between the resources of the two teams. Zen obviously puts high pressure out through very high damage and relatively low healing. That's Discord Orb for his team, his damage shots, plus, then the Harmony Orb is sort of slowing down how fast his team is losing the pressure battle, but not by as much as, say, Anna would slow down the battle, or Moira would slow down the battle with higher healing but lower damage, whereas Bapt would do a fair amount of both and would be a pretty high pressure in both directions person. Zen is a much higher damage pressure, lowers healing sustain. But what we're looking at here, this is an excellent support combination for organized play. The problem is on ladder, people tend to be sloppy. People tend to take more damage than they should. They tend to not be able to stage without taking lots of damage. And because of that, you not having the ability to recover from mistakes in downtime very quickly is a problem. In organized play, people can take cover, people can rotate to place, they'll take damage, but then they'll try to minimize how much damage they take staging, rotating. You heal up, then you go in. In unorganized play, in lower ranks, what you'll find is people take too much damage, and the ability, while no one's under pressure, while no one has a sight line on anyone, for Anna or Bapt or even Moira or Mercy to heal things up at a relatively quick pace while everyone's out of line of sight is pretty important. You're just going to lose too much time when fights aren't happening between fights with this comp on ladder. That said, it's an amazing comp. If you do any organized play, if you do any 4-stacking, 6-stacking, whatever, you might want to try it out. It's really, really powerful. In fact, much of what makes it so powerful is that Zen is amazing and Brig is the bodyguard. And hey, amazing hero with the bodyguard, amazing hero who's allowed to be amazing because they do such a good job of protecting themselves with the bodyguard hero. Well, it makes sense that that would be effective. Okay. So, moving on to our second combination here. This one isn't too surprising. This one is going to be Bapt plus Lucio. And what we look at for Bapt plus Lucio is this is your brawl combination. Now, you guys will see another brawl combination down here of Moira plus Lucio, but this is your best, your standard brawl supporting support line. And what it does is Bapt is a nice, solid, big healer, as well as putting pretty good damage out as well, so good high pressure hero. And then we've got Lucio, and Lucio does an excellent job of enabling tanks. Lucio goes, hey, I can enable my Reinhardt to come in and out. He can also enable, I shouldn't say tanks. He enables movement. He enables tanks like Reinhardt, like Zarya quite well. He can enable Reapers, Maze, things like that. He also does a good job of helping against Brawl type comps because Brawl type comps tend to use Lucio. So having your own Lucio to help kite your own support away, be that Zen, be that Moira, be that Bapt, whatever, can be nice. So Zen or Lucio works by going, hey, I'm going to enable movement on my team. Hey, I can go do those things. This is great. But the thing that works well here is Bapt, while he does a good job of healing tanks, can also shoot left, shoot right, heal people that are in other places. Basically, this is we want to enable Brawl. We do a good job of it. This helps Brawl. Bapt's at his best when he's uh, healing Brawl because he gets to go, hey, I can shoot at my Reinhardt and the enemy Reinhardt, and it makes my weaving really easy, really fast. There's no downtime. I can do double left click or even triple left click weaves without losing much in terms of delaying my next right click heal because the targets are right next to each other, right on top of each other, that sort of thing. So this is a great combination, and this is the standard Brawl support combination. For anyone that doesn't understand that, definitely pipe up in chat there, and I'll try to pay attention. You guys are moving pretty fast, but I want to sort of get through a category at a time before I catch up on chat too much here. Then we move on to Bapt plus Brig, and what we're looking at here is, while we did say Bapt is an amazing Brawl support for healing tanks, for healing Brawly type heroes, Bapt also has pretty good poke damage, like we talked about. Zen has amazing poke damage too, but Bapt has pretty darn good poke damage, so we can hit situations where we go, we're using tanks that would require a little bit more sustain, or we're using stuff that requires a bit more sustain. Maybe we're using an Orisa who has a barrier, has fortify, but would like more sustain than a Zen can offer to her. She'd like a little more. Or, Diva would like a bit more sustain than Zen can regularly offer. Sigma's pretty self-sufficient, but Sigma, we could go like that. That sort of thing. We're going heavy into a poke comp, but we want to protect our backline. We want some compromise to protect our poke comp from divers. And Brig is one of the best heroes to mix into your composition. If you're worried about divers, poke comps are generally vulnerable to dive. Hey, let's add Brig as a compromise to our comp to protect our poke comp, which Bapt is fantastic in, from divers. Makes sense to me. Zen is also fantastic in poke comps. You can do it like this, but this is an absolutely valid and very powerful combination. Bapt has more self peel than Zen. Obviously, Bapt has his biotic regeneration, biotic field. He has his lamp, immortality field. Excuse me. He's got exo boots. Bapt is more self-sufficient than Zen, definitely, but Brig still is a great way to further protect that and harden your whole team against dive. So this works pretty darn well. Shade with a quick comment in here. I'll just get that one. I do understand Bapt Lucio being best Brawl comp, but for most of the lower elo ladder play, I'd prefer having Moira Lucio for the call every team fight. Your DPS hate you. Your DPS absolutely hate you, Shade, and you are playing entirely to support your tanks if you're doing that. Because if you're running a true full Brawl comp with like Reaper plus May, that might make sense. But what if you have a McCree who's off-angling? What if you guys have a Tracer who's doing some flanking? What if your Reaper ever wants to teleport behind the enemy team? What if you have a Sombra that's doing any scouting for you? What if you have a Soldier that's taking a high ground support angle? Soldier actually can get away with it, but an Ashe is taking an off-angle support high ground angle. Moira Lucio does not support them very well. And I want to get to that, and we'll talk about this in general, but basically I'll get to it in a moment. We'll circle back to it, because we have others in front of it. But the issue that you run into and why this is the better support comp, and we will focus on this more, is this requires your entire team to stack, and that is not good fundamental Overwatch. It's kind of breaking the game, breaking a lot of the fundamentals of the game. There's a very specific comp it works in, but are you guys really going to be organized to do that? Are you really going to be together enough? Is your engagement timing going to be crisp enough that you all engage together? If not, I want to be able to support my team that spreads out a little bit. Okay. There we go. So here we go. Let's move on here. Okay, so we run this Bapt. This works well too. This can support a poke comp excellently. This also works quite nicely for very hardened brawl comps that are trying to go, hey, we don't need rotation speed for one reason or another. We've decided that we can go without rotation speed, without tank speed, to go full on, make ourselves hard to take down. Like, let's mix in a. Sorry. New headset arrives today. I think you guys are probably getting a popping noise there. You guys, so what we're looking at is a we want to mix in like a Torb and a Brig and just make ourselves absolutely crush dive, that sort of thing. You have rotational problems, you can get taken advantage of, get outsped, things like that, but it is valid for that as well. More often used in poke comps. Then we move on to our next combination. This one is, I'd say this is probably a power tier gap. Obviously, we've made this one tier, but within this tier, this is probably where we start to hit a power tier gap of these comps are consistently more useful than the ones below them. There's nothing wrong with these ones below them. These are still good, valid comps that have very solid strengths and mitigatable weaknesses. Less mitigatable weakness here, but very strong comp regardless. So we look at this one. This functions very similar to the Zen Brig comp, but is actually the comp I would recommend most people run on ladder if they're trying to simulate this comp, because even though Anna's not going to put as high pressure up, she's not going to have that discord, she's not going to chip down the team as well, she does a fantastic job of healing people back up more quickly when line of sight breaks and you're not just in a constant pressure battle. You're able to relieve that pressure, heal yourself up within just a couple seconds, heal your team up rather within just a couple seconds. She's also better when you're comboing with, hey, if you have a monkey instead of a ball, for example, ball doesn't like nano all that much. Like, he'll take it, sure, but he doesn't like it all that much. Whereas monkey absolutely loves nano, and especially below like 4,500 for ball players. There's a few maps where they're going to struggle that are super vertical maps, Gibraltar, Nimbani, where they're going to struggle to play ball into those maps, and they're going to want to instead play Winston for his easier vertical mobility, easier repositioning with high precision, that sort of thing. And Anna works better as a support for that. And it also works better if you're going, hey, we want to be playing double bubble. Double bubble isn't really currently the meta, but it's certainly been meta. It's been meta recently. It's a reasonably effective comp, and this is the support line that you run for it. And again, you're looking to go, hey, we have a bodyguard for our Anna. Anna is not as vulnerable as Zen, generally considered a little more vulnerable than Bapt, but still absolutely appreciates the bodyguard factor that she gets. Anna does a good job of supporting tanks, but can support off-angling DPS and such. Brig will, of course, mostly be supporting off-angling DPS, that sort of thing. That works quite well. So this is good. Mostly it's an inferior version of this comp right here, but ultimately it does have its place, mostly because Winston is involved. Then we move on to Zen Mercy. Zen Mercy I wish saw more use. Unfortunately, it doesn't, and this is because Brig is in a lot of ways just a better support. What you're doing here is you're leaning hard into your team's poke aspects. You're going, hey, this is a poke hero, this is a poke hero. We'll also be leaning heavily into poke in this next one below it, but these are both poke heroes. We want to go with it. You'll see this pretty commonly when you're going, hey, we want a Zen Pharmacy comp, we want a Zen Echo Mercy comp, something along those lines, but usually it's a temporary thing, or the opponents have gone completely with their own poke comp, something along those lines, completely with their own brawl comp, and we're not getting enough value out of having the Brig. Brig is really good when she has to play against divers, when she's worried about, hey, a ball could come into our team, a Winston could come into our team, a Tracer could come into our team, a Sombra, a Genji, those sorts of things, a Doomfist. She's really good when that's a concern. She's also pretty good at enabling her own divers, but if there's no divers on the other team to be concerned about, you start to go, hey, I'd like to get more ranged power. I'd like to get more power in this comp, and the easiest way to do that is usually go Mercy and temporarily boost the Pharah, the Hanzo, the Zen, the Sigma, whatever you've got that'll give you a bit more poke damage there, and also immediately have an ult level ability in res that you don't need to charge ult up for. And then if they make swaps, if they add a tracer, they add a ball, any of those things, you go, okay, now we'll make my swap back to Brig, but I'm only having to adjust one character. I'm not having to adjust our whole composition when you guys make changes here. Super chat coming in from Adam in Charge for $2 saying, hey, Temporal, this advice is cool, but you're wrong. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam. Let me know what you think is wrong here. I don't actually think you think I'm wrong. I think you're trolling me because you enjoy that. but I appreciate your super chat trolling nonetheless. Holy Shift Kid did a Brig guide. I think it's quite good, and there aren't many Brig guides out there. Holy Shift Kid did do a Brig guide, and yes, that is the one I would recommend to most people for now. Okay. What was I moving on to here? Yeah, so this is cool, but mostly this is a niche situational comp where you're switching between these two comps like this. It's unfortunate, but it's sort of the reality where, hey, 2/3 of the time you mostly want to be running Brig or occasionally Lucio, and then like 1/3 of the time you're like, okay, I'll swap off my Brig to a Mercy. Still, absolutely a valid comp. We did have Owl Season 1 meta was a dive meta that relied pretty heavily on Zen Mercy. That's obviously a long time ago at that point, but you do even to this day see a lot of Zen Mercy play temporarily or when you need Farah in there, that sort of thing. Mercy does an okay job peeling for Zen. Zen does a lot of damage himself, and if he can survive just a little bit longer or just get a little bit more damage, he can do a reasonably good job of going, hey, I'll somewhat consistently outduel a Tracer. I will let a ball not have the burst to take him down, so Mercy can go back and, with high mobility, go peel for Zen, but ultimately Mercy is just helpless when you start running into, I'm going to protect my Zen from 2 divers. I'm going to protect my Zen from a Tracer that got a jump on the Zen. I'm going to protect my Zen from a Tracer that is more mechanically talented than my Zen. Mercy's just not nearly as capable of doing so as a Brig. So you see that swap back come pretty quickly if the opponents get on divers. But it's fantastic when the enemy team is full on poke or if they go full on brawl, that sort of thing. Next, we move into this one. This is just a greedy full poke line. What this comp is relying on right here, our Zen Bapt, is it's saying, hey, we've got this. Zen Bapt is good when you're going, we are playing a full poke comp, and we want maximum poke damage from our support line. And this is great for it. This is even better than this comp for full poke damage. But what it's relying on for its peel is Zen doesn't really have peel. Zen's version of peeling for someone else is, I'll give you a Harmony Orb and start shooting at them. Okay. Bapt, however, for a flex support, because these are both flex supports, that's what this comp is. This is our first comp that is running double flex support. And what it's relying on is Bapt sometimes gets to cheat and count himself as a main support, and he sort of gets run in that slot because his peel and his self-peel is so strong. Again, he has that regeneration with that shift. He has that lamp, that's the immortality field. He has the ability to jump with boots. He has pretty good damage. He has pretty good healing. Like, Bapt is able to protect himself really quite well of the flex supports. You could argue Moira can protect herself better, but Moira certainly isn't very good at protecting other people. Like Moira cannot protect Zen if, Tracer Genji show up to try to take down Zen. Zen's on his own. Like Moira can heal, Moira can apply a little damage, but it really doesn't work very well. Moira can get forced out instantly with Fade, and then the Zen goes down. Bapt is going to do a better job. He's not perfect. He's not as good as having a Brig, for example. He's not as good as having a Lucio even, but Bapt is good enough at peeling, at self-peel, to sort of go, hey, we're going to cheat and sort of run this, and we think we can get away with it. It's not as strong as mixing in a Brig in either slot to protect your backline, definitely not, but it's a greedy way to run a poke comp, and it is sort of the greed comp right now. In early days, or previously before Bapt existed, your greed comp, your greedy backline, when you didn't think peel was going to be a problem, would be Zen Anna. Zen Bapt is taken over as the comp to run in that situation. Hey, Temporal, what is Bapt's weakness? What is Bapt's weakness? Bapt's weakness, he doesn't... It's getting annoying. Sorry about that. Bapt's weakness is unfortunately not all that obvious. Like, they designed Bapt, and they designed Bapt with, okay, Lamp is on a really long cooldown, so that's definitely a weakness that you can take advantage of, and Bapt doesn't do a terribly good job when he's overwhelmed. Like, Zen can throw a Harmony Orb on his Winston, on his Genji to enable it, and then turn around and protect himself from a Tracer that's fighting him. Bapt isn't doing anything to help while that's happening. Bapt is going, hey, I am fighting this, I'm really not helping my team. I mean, I could throw Lamp lamp to all my team, but that's a huge commitment. Bapt's weakness is effectively in the realm of, hey, he doesn't support his team well while doing something else unless committing lamp, which is huge. And the weave. Like, Bapt needs to be weaving to get a lot of value. If Bapt is not effectively weaving, that's not happening. If you can force Bapt's vision away from his team, he's not weaving very well. So that would sort of be the weakness, but the reality is that's a bit of a cop-out as a weakness. Like, yeah, okay, Anna isn't doing a ton for her team unless she's precast Nano, which Bapt could precast Window for his team when she's looking away. Or, you've naded them and then you look away, but like, okay, they probably wanted your nade to protect yourself. So it's a bit of a cop-out. Bapt does not have huge weaknesses. That's not great. That's not great that he doesn't have huge weaknesses like that. Hey, Cager, how you doing? Celeste says temporal isn't Moira kind of a main support too? No, not really. Moira does not do a terribly good job of peeling for other people. Like, you might think, oh, Moira can heal other people pretty well, but she's got some range limitations. You can attack her and basically instantly make her fade to leave and then take her down the other support. That is less true with any of the main supports. Lucio, you cannot make Lucio leave very quickly and then go after his Anna, go after his Bapt, something like that. You cannot make Brig leave very quickly and make that happen. Like, Moira, you put pressure on her, she fades away, she then can't really heal the person that you're on. Her trying to stay there and damage rather than heal someone when they're on there, that doesn't work very well. And healing, once you get to any moderately high level, even Moira just chugging heals onto a Zen, for example, is not going to keep the Zen alive through, well, if you're chugging healing, that's two people, through two people trying to take him down. Like, that's not, unfortunately, how it works. So, no, Moira's not terribly good at peeling for her team. Moira can, like, pre-pressure teams. Moira can make Genjis leave, make Sombras leave, things like that. She does a pretty good job of, but not like, okay, they're on us right now and we actually need them to get off our support type thing. Okay. Okay, so now we move on to our last viable comp I'm going to list in the organized play tier. Again, we've got 3 tiers here. And this is not to say no other comps get run in organized play as support combinations. You will even see what's basically my least favorite combination, which is Lucio Mercy, occasionally run in organized play. You've also seen Lucio Brig run in organized play. You will see other things very occasionally run in organized play, but these are your main culprits for organized play. So this last one is going to be Lucio Moira. This is full on for supporting a brawl comp or a dive brawl comp that understands the entire fight needs to happen in one place, and you have no poke phase if you run this support line. The reason you have no poke phase if you run the support line is if you spread out your DPS, spread out your takes, take angles on the opponents like this, your Moira back here can't heal this person except with orb. Can't heal this person except with orb. Your Lucio would have to skate over here to help this person, then skate over here to help this person, and that's relatively low value. He's fast to get around, don't get me wrong, and he can help people set up pretty well, which gives him some more value in that Lucio Bapt comp. You'll regularly see Lucios setting up their Zaryas, letting them farm for longer, spending some time to rotate their Krees or Hanzos to help them take off angles, that sort of thing, before going back to their team, but ultimately does not support poke battles, does not support pre-fight type things like this. So basically, if you're running this Lucio plus Moira comp, your team basically has to skip out on the poke phase, or they all stack together for the poke phase, which makes poke terrible. And then they have to go, okay, we skipped poke, we're staging as close as we can, and then we're hard rushing in together as best we can. That's not great for ladder. Let's be honest. Your team is going to drift. Your team is going to spread out. Your team is not going to understand we need this whole battle to happen really, really fast in this small area. It's really not a good combination, and it's really kind of selfish to pick this combination if your team has people who are clearly going to spread out a bit. And that would be the Genjis, the Echoes, the Pharahs, the Widows who are just not going to be in the fight. And not only is it, oh, hey, they're rarely going to get support, they're basically going to get no support. And you're basically throwing for your team if you're doing that. You could argue they're throwing by picking the different heroes, sure, whatever. make your decision there of how you want to view that. But ultimately, this is a bit hard to make work in unorganized play, much like this is hard to make work in unorganized play for different reasons. This is a pretty selfish support line for the support players. It's a we don't want to get bothered, we don't want to lose to the opponents type thing, but your team isn't going to have much offensive power. They don't have a damage boost, they don't have a discord, they don't have nades, they don't have Bapt's good damage, they don't have good offensive power for pushing things over the edge. You have to activate this win condition. We're just going to all together as 6 people go rush. There's a reason the comp is frequently called 6-man. But for 6-man, it's absolutely valid for now. Whether it stays valid is always going to depend on how tightly tuned Moira is. If Moira gets too strong, 6-man becomes amazing. If Moira gets even a little bit weaker, 6-man really stops being viable. And 6-man isn't the most viable thing right now. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move on to ladder solutions. And I'm sure most of you aren't surprised to see Anna plus Bapt as basically the top thing we've listed here. And this is double flex support. So like, wait, isn't the optimal combination flex support plus main support, flex support plus main support, flex support plus main support, flex main, flex, or this is double flex, but flex main, like isn't that supposed to be all of our optimal combinations? Well, yeah, it's supposed to be. Wouldn't that be nice? Doesn't always work out that way when we hit ladder, doesn't always work out that way even in organized play. And one of the reasons for that is your main supports are generally bringing you nice, good peel, which, hey, that's pretty cool. But they're also generally bringing you some nice form of utility that isn't necessarily going to see a ton of value in ladder. Lucio is great. Lucio is a fun hero, a fantastic hero, does good stuff, not as powerful as Brig. But hey, Lucio's a hero. Speed boost, unfortunately, isn't getting you a ton of value in low ranks. If you're talking about a silver game, it's unfortunate. Your Reinhardt should get a lot of value out of speed. He absolutely should. But if he was just going to stand there shield botting, unfortunately, giving him speed isn't really helping him. If he, stabilized at the wrong times, going, okay, well, you're going to heal or as Lucio, isn't going to do a ton for you. So because there's silver games, gold games, even to some degree plat games, the metal ranks effectively, because speed isn't going to be used terribly well, terribly consistently. It's amazing in organized play, but the reality is, okay, it can make a lot of sense to go, hey, more healing can be better than some of this utility. More healing is not better than Discord. Do not mistake what I said, but more healing does work pretty well because it's sort of a simple solution that others don't have to understand for it to work well. Others have to understand speed for it to work well. We're just using Lucio as the example. So more healing, pretty good. More pressure, pretty good. Bapt Anna, lot of healing there, lot of pressure. They're both actually pretty decent at self-peel. Anna has Sleep Dart and Nade. Bapt has his Shift. Bapt has Lamp. Bapt has good damage. So they do a pretty good job of peeling for themselves and each other. Obviously, Anna would like to have someone else to peel for her. Bapt would like it too. Anna likes it a little bit more. But between themselves, they're pretty capable of protecting each other and themselves. It makes sense. You guys might be asking, well, if this is, so good for ladder, why is it not used in organized play? And that is absolutely a valid question. What you run into, though, is they're not like actually that fantastic in terms of what they're bringing to if you know what you're doing. And the answer there is Bapt, yes, lots of healing. Anna, yes, lots of healing. Again, having something like speed tends to be better for engaging if you're trying to brawl, because otherwise teams will kite you and pick you apart, even if you have the ults, even if you have the supports. In fact, if you have double supports, you'll split your healing. The other team that's trying to pick you apart as they move will get their ults first, as you two have split healing ult charge, and then will win with ults and snowball the game a bit. You can also run into situations where, again, having something like very strong anti-dive capabilities becomes more important as tracers get better and better and better. So yeah, you would be looking at that effectively, or those are reasons why this sees more. And then again, something like Zen is better at supporting DPS than Anna is. Bapt is fantastic at supporting tanks. Anna's fantastic at supporting tanks. Anna can support tanks better than Bapt can, or can support DPS, but does not support DPS to the same level that Zen does. What Harmony Orb plus Discord Orb does to, there's an Echo matchup happening over there, but my Echo has Harmony Orb and the other Echo has Discord Orb, that fight is already over. Anna, okay, she can send heal shots at her Echo, attack damage shots at the other Echo. That's one of the ones that she has a little more influence on, but you'd still prefer to have the Zen in that situation. Yes, you really would if your Echoes are even reasonably similar to each other in skill. And that only becomes even more tilted when it comes to, okay, other flanker matchups, Genji Tracer, or, okay, we've got, our McCree is trying to deal with a Winston that jumped him. I'd way rather have a Harmony Orb supporting that McCree, a Discord Orb supporting that McCree, Zen Damage supporting that McCree, than an Anna trying to support that McCree, who's trying to deal with the Winston that is on him, or that sort of thing. Okay, so that's that. But for ladder, this is for ladder, let me rephrase that. These are the best comps. I don't want to be like, for ladder, these are what you should run, because I'm not relisting my comps. I would say that these are the best combinations, but I would put with an asterisk, this is a much weaker combination than it looks like in ladder play, and this is probably a weaker combination than it looks like in ladder play. The rest of these are all good combinations as long as you're using them in a team comp that makes some level of sense for them to support. This, even if you're using a team comp that it supports well for most of ladder until you get to about GM, High Masters GM is going to really struggle to run this comp because they just take too much unnecessary damage and it slows you down too much and you'll get punished and staggered and that sort of thing. And same thing here with this, except it's in the opposite direction of you're not going to be doing super synchronized, everyone hit it once type things that these two absolutely demand. They demand everyone hits it once, and they demand that you're able and playing heroes that want to stack together, can stay stacked together, can complete a dive and then stay in that dive, that sort of thing. Not playing poke heroes. Okay, so that's that. We're moving. So, these I would say are all effectively better than this tier, but it's not going to be wild. It's not going to be wrong. If you go here, you could argue that a few of these maybe go a little higher than a couple of these. I would mostly say, no, these are just better combinations, ladder or organized, but these are our organized play comps. We're now continuing through the realm of ladder comps here. So now we've got Merciana. This is a pretty normal combination. This one works pretty well. If you have something like a pharmacy, like an Echo Mercy, this one works well because, again, Anna is better able to protect herself than Zen is. And we noticed our previous Mercy combination was a Zen Mercy combination. It wasn't super common, but it was valid. This one works well in that Anna can protect herself a little bit better with it than Zen can. Sleep Dart is nice. We've also got the ability to, in some cases, go, hey, stay far away in scope, and we've got a fair amount of healing that can still be offered to the team. If you're running the Zen Mercy combination, there's not a ton of healing available. That might seem odd with Mercy on the board, but Mercy is mostly playing a damage-enabling role in this situation, and she's doing most of her healing between fights. If you have this Anna, it's a little easier to run because Anna has more ability to relieve pressure, to heal during the fight. She can put out more serious healing without Mercy coming off of her actual job of increasing your Pharaoh's lethality, increasing your Echo's lethality, that sort of thing. So this is a combination that you will usually see when you're trying to enable a specific flyer, but can also work if Mercy just has good targets. Hanzo's, Ashes, things like that she can go, hey, I can enable this person, it's going to work pretty well, and I get to play pretty darn blue beam heavy without it really hurting the team because we have the Anna. Mercy can go back. The weakness of this comp is damage boosting Anna doesn't do very much. Healing Anna helps some. Damage boosting Anna helps, but it's not amazing in terms of, okay, Anna, now you can win this duel against the Tracer that's on you. No, not really. If you don't hit the Sleep Dart, you're still going to be in some trouble. Damage boosting an Anna, for example, that has a Winston on her is like, okay, well, what did that do? Healing her, the Winston still eventually can take that down, though obviously it's more complicated with the nade and such involved, but obviously it never actually stays that simple as a 1v2. If it does stay that simple as a 1v2, you can pretty much guarantee that the Winston's team is getting value elsewhere because zero support is being offered elsewhere. So this comp, little bit vulnerable to flankers, little bit easier to play than the Zen Mercy comp because, again, Anna has that self-nade if she needs it. She has that sleep dart, but she doesn't actually win and drive off flankers. It'd say, hey, our Mercy can help stall it. Blue Beam doesn't work terribly well with Anna. Blue Beam does work quite well with Zen. Okay. So next we'd move on to Merciana does feel all right to play. Everything we've covered so far should feel all right to play, except again, maybe for these two. It's going to get worse, especially once we get down to Lost at Hero Select. Merciana might be the single most common support lineup on ladder. I can see that. I think your experience is tilted a little bit there, Mercedes, because you play a lot of Mercy, so like that makes Mercy more prevalent. Obviously, Mercy is already incredibly prevalent on ladder, but that makes her even more prevalent. Okay. Next, we move on to this. Zen Anna, again, this was our old greedy support line. This used to see more play and organized play, not all the time, definitely. It was a greed pick, like Bapt Zen is a greed pick. It's a little better at enabling more divey comps. So you'd be looking at, hey, if you're leaning into your dive aspects, this looks pretty good. You might do this if you're on offense and you see that the opponents are on a comp that you're not worried about getting to your back line. Maybe they're on a poke comp. You might see this if you are on defense and you have really strong high ground, or you can stay just close to your own spawn with your back line, where that provides some level of safety. You have really good map control. But you can also just go, hey, these heroes, they're both powerful heroes. It's very similar to running Bapt plus Anna here, where, hey, they're both just powerful heroes who put a lot of pressure on the match, and the dives aren't so organized that we need to go, let's protect ourselves from a 3 or a 4-person dive. If you start seeing 3 or 4-person dives, you're really, really going to wish that you had that Brig. You really are. But let's be honest, on ladder, you're not going to see a ton of super well-coordinated dives. So the exchange of we're weaker to organized dives, but we can defend ourselves against individual flankers pretty well, especially if we cross peel for each other. Zen has the damage. Anna peels for Zen a little worse than Zen peels for Anna, because Zen, again, harm the orb and then make things leave. Whereas Anna, okay, she can hit a sleep dart maybe. She can hit a dart to heal Zen, but her rate of fire for healing to get that second heal off, to get that third heal off on Zen, can be a bit of a problem. That said, really vulnerable to dives, also vulnerable to good teams rotating on them with Lucio, with speed, that sort of thing. But let's be serious. How often do teams hit good, organized, long rotations to eventually catch up on a Zen Anna on ladder? Not very often. So better on ladder than it is in organized play. In organized play, you'll either get dove or a team will be willing to invest 20 seconds into a long rotation to keep moving you guys around and then eventually catch you. Okay, then we move on to Mercy Bapt. Don't really have a problem with this combination. Bapt has pretty good self-peel, so can afford for Mercy to go off and do her own thing. If Mercy does feel the need to come back to peel for him, much like she would for a Zen, Bapt has more durability than a Zen has, but Bapt still has plenty of damage, so she gets to use both of her beams to peel quite effectively for the Bapt. Bapt can go high and make it easier for Mercy to get back to him. This is a pretty solid combination. I don't really have an issue with it. Bapt in this situation enables your tanks a little bit more. Mercy is looking to enable your DPS. Hey, this is valid. There's no real issue here. Again, it's not as strong as having a Discord orb. You generally want speed if you're playing a tank enabling comp, so this is why this isn't that common in organized play. You can get comps that work better than it, but I don't really have an issue with this combination. Next, we move on to Bapt plus Moira. Here you start to run into, okay, these start to sort of be what I'll call a softer. This would probably be our soft line of, we're not creating a full new tier, but we've noticed a step down within this tier in terms of power. Much like when we went back to the previous tier, we had a step down in power after we got through to about here. So we go here, we look at our step down in power, and what do we have? Well, we have Bapt plus Moira. So the problem here is both of these are really looking to enable tanks, looking to enable brawls, and you're going to have, okay, if you're trying to enable brawls and you're doing it with lots of healing and some damage, that's cool and all, but you probably want speed because Brawl's weakness is going to be poke. You want to shorten the poke phase. You want to let your Brawl team get in closer, faster, that sort of thing. It's not like Moira has a meaningfully good poke phase. So, like, Again, you'd really prefer that Lucio to make the brawl happen. You don't need more strength in the brawl. You need the ability to make the brawl happen before you guys get too weak, before too many cooldowns get forced, and no, just healing yourself through it as you try to chase them isn't the right answer. If they have Lucio, it's just not going to work type thing. Because, again, they'll charge up their ults faster. They'll just shred you as they're kiting you type thing because you've split your support healing ults for that first fight, for that second fight, and it didn't really work type thing. As well as you're just not going to catch them if they have speed and you don't. But the other issue that you hit is, hey, you've gone double in on Brawl. You don't have the speed to cover Brawl's weakness. You have a splitting support ult charge issue. But then you've also got, okay, well, what are we going to do to support any sort of off angles? We've put a tracer behind this comp that we're trying to brawl with. We've put a tracer behind them, and we can't support the tracer, and their tracer duels our tracer just a little bit, gets a little bit of healing. She's inside, so like we can do, here, let me do this like this. We're blue team in this situation, so core, tracer, other team, core, their own tracer. They can support their tracer here quite easily. Their tracer forces your tracer away as they're kiting you, and then you're fighting them and your tracer can't help, that sort of thing. Or your McCree is over here, you couldn't really support him, wrong color, but he's forced to leave because they're able to go contest him. They're able to use, maybe they have a Harmony Orb on their own, Winston over here contesting him, whatever. He leaves, that sort of thing. He's going to have to go find health packs. They're now going to be able to 6v5. This is not a terribly effective combination. It doesn't support DPS very well, and it is then worse than the Bapt Lucio version because, again, you're looking at that split support ult charge. You're looking at that you haven't actually covered Brawl's weakness of you need to be able to close on the team quickly. Rotations, the poke phase, is your weakness as a Brawl comp. If Lucio presses E around Winston, Winston is almost totally useless for a little while. Okay. If Lucio presses right click on Winston's face, Winston's pretty useless for a while too. Okay. So now we move on to our next one. Again, this would have been a comp. This used to be a comp. This and the next one were both comps in professional play and organized play. Anna Lucio. It's not like some terrible comp or anything, but what you run into with it is Brawl isn't really the thing that you're worried about these days. Now, Brawl is a fine comp, but what giving yourself a Lucio rather than a Brig does is it makes it so that our Brawl team is going to rotate onto your core, onto your backline, because your Lucio here is peeling for your Anna. Lucio will have a little bit of a poke phase, and then we'll go, hey, I can extend the poke phase. I can make the Brawl team get to a slower. That's good, and that's going to help my Anna and give my team, be it a dive team or a poke team, more time to pick apart their team, or even a Brawl team, more time to try and pick apart my team before we enter the mid-fight, before we enter the Brawl. And that's totally fine. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. That's good utility. Lucio, by existing, is offering some level of automatic peel against Brawl teams that you probably aren't even noticing most of the time. That, hey, your backline, your Anna can kite, your Zen can kite, whatever the case may be, and that's cool. The problem you run into is I'm a lot less worried about a comp hybridizing in a little bit of Brawl than I am a little bit of Dive. A Brawl comp that's added a Tracer can still pretty effectively threaten our backline, and I potentially want protection against that. A Poke comp that is added in a Ball can still effectively bother my backline, and I want protection against that. And in those situations, whereas a Dive comp that is added in a Mei, I'm not really needing the protection against the Brawl hero Mei there. She can't really engage. Splicing in a little bit of Dive is generally more dangerous than splicing in a little bit of Brawl for engagement speed reasons, and because of that, the peel that Lucio offers in speed to keep his team away from Brawl tends not to be as useful as the peel that Brig can offer in terms of, hey, I can threaten 1 to 2 divers that come in pretty easily if that's been spliced in there. If it's a full dive, she's still going to generally help you more than a Lucio would, but that's sort of the point. Like adding a little bit of dive, and especially because we're in the era of hybrids, Brig tends to be the more reliable, the better peel in that situation. Do not undersell Lucio. Lucio is offering your team peel, but Lucio is offering, well, he obviously has his boop, he has his E, he has his ability to fight a tracer that shows up. The secret part of his peel is, hey, the brawl team isn't catching you, the brawl team isn't catching up to your backline, and that's great if they're a full brawl team, but when teams start splicing and start being on ladder, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or even organized play where you see a lot of poke dive hybrids, you see six man, which is a brawl dive hybrid, that sort of thing, having that defense against the dive threat, adding in a single piece of dive tends to be more dangerous. It's time to start a buff Lucio movement, make Boop great again. Could be, could be. You run into much the same thing here, except this is even harder to run on ladder. This was a mainstay of professional play for a long time, Zen Lucio here. They've got great support ults, sound barrier plus beat, great support ults to have, but ultimately it runs into exactly the same issue that this comp runs into of the total sustain that you have, your ability to heal up between mistakes. Like if you take a bad engage or you get poked in rotation, it takes quite a while for this support combination to heal the team up, and that is unfortunate and not really acceptable. In the actual fight, they're okay. Lucio makes your engagement stronger or makes your disengage good with his amp. Zen gives you good pressure with his damage, with his Discord orb, so totally fine for the fight itself, but again, that staging phase, if you make mistakes in staging, you've kind of lost the fight because it takes forever to recover from against comps that are running things like Bapt Anna that just recover instantly from making staging mistakes as long as no one got eliminated. Then we move on to Moira Mercy. Is fine. Moira comps aren't very good. You guys know this. You'll notice the Moira comp was our worst comp in organized play. You'll notice, when we got to Moira here, it was sort of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe I could put this a little bit higher than I did. At least Moira has the ability to support tanks while Mercy supports DPS. Like that's good. Mercy can go support off angles. Moira can do things like this. Neither of these are too vulnerable. I could have put this a little bit higher. I could have, but it's just still not a great comp. Like you'd look at this and go, okay, I really would rather be playing these two heroes. These two heroes. Like, okay, like we'll compare this. Bapt Mercy versus Moira Mercy. Okay, well, I just have better here. Bapt can do more in terms of the pressure he puts on because he's putting damage and healing out there. He can support angles if he has to. That makes sense. Moira Mercy this is really just a weaker version of Bapt Mercy. It is. Like, the only difference here is Moira protects herself a little bit better than Bapt does. That's the difference, and it's just not worth the trade of, hey, your Bapt put so much more pressure through his damage plus healing than your Moira does on the other team. Like, that's the reality there. This is a strictly better version of this. The difference, again, this is a tiny bit more self-survivable than this is. Okay, this isn't a terribly vulnerable support combination, though, so that's not a great argument. Temporal, would you rather have Moira Mercy or Moira Anna? Well, we're going to answer that because have we come across a Moira Anna yet? No, and we're going down in order, so I think you know the answer to that one. We will answer the question of how to use distribute roles with Bapt Anna when they're together. Never mind, that we can cover again. Sure, Bapt Anna when they're together, what you're going to do is, in this situation, Bapt is going to want to lean more into his damage than normal. So Bapt is going to want to go even harder on damage and let Anna absorb a little bit more of the healing role. That said, you should still be weaving. You should absolutely still be weaving, but you might go to a 3-to-1 instead of a 2-to-1. You're also going to let Bapt be a little bit more focused on tanks and Anna a little bit more focused or more focused. So how do I put this? Bapt, focus more on damage and less, still do your healing, but focus more on damage. Anna, focus more on the DPS because your Bapt can heal DPS. He can turn and heal DPS if he has to, but your Anna is better able to, because of her rate of fire is relatively slow. She has a much greater ability to turn over there and heal her Genji, to turn over there and heal her Echo, to turn over there and heal her Ball. So let her do the healing on the harder to heal targets. Let Bapt keep his crosshair near the enemies where he can also heal his tanks that are in, that sort of thing. Let Anna focus a little bit more on her healing, Bap a little bit more on the damage. Bap should still do lots of healing. It should be tank centric. Anna should understand that she can't go tank centric in this. She'll do some tank healing, sure, but most of her interest is going to be in, hey, I'm going to go for supporting our DPS. I'm still going to go look to use my abilities offensively. And yes, I will mix in some tank healing as well. You thought it was reversed? I thought Anna tuned more into. I mean, it depends what you need to do. In specific games, you might have to do that. You might have to turn into a let Bap just figure out all of the support needs, whatever, and Anna's going to lean hard into her offense and go for eliminations with nades, sleeps, that sort of thing. Like, you could go, hey, do that. But if you're doing that, it's because your team isn't getting enough offense done, and Bap's offense doesn't go up that much higher when he does those things. Anna's offense can go up by her doing those things, but again, I would rather Bap not lose his offense from having to look over here at the Echo and look over here at the Tracer, that sort of thing. I'd much rather Anna go do that level of support if you have to. But if you're specifically finding we're struggling to break them, you will sometimes have to do that. I'm giving you how they should optimally be played, but the reality is you sometimes play heroes wrong to win games because you're really backfilling for other people not doing their job well enough. You having the correct understanding of how to play the game doesn't mean everyone else shares your correct vision of how to play the game, so you sometimes make adjustments. You assert you want to be the DPS support and let Bap heal? Okay. I mean, that's fine. I don't mind that. Um, I'm not saying you shouldn't take offensive shots, and BAP is going to provide, like, BAP should provide roughly his base amount of healing regardless, is the thing. But it sort of depends. If BAP is supplying his base amount of healing and that's enough for your tanks and your DPS aren't really needing much, great. You're absolutely, yes, going to go play the more offensive, get ability, work done style Anna. I am not suggesting otherwise. But I am not suggesting that BAP stops healing, for example. BAP should still be doing 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 weaves, and if he's doing that, that's fine. I do not want BAP having to fall back into 1-to-1 weaves, or even worse, to go heal the Echo over there, the Reaper that Shadow stepped over there, that sort of thing. Okay. Where were we? We covered these. Did Moira Mercy, so now we are on to Anna Moira. I don't like it. Like, again, we look at this and we go, hey, this is a worse version of this right here. This is an extreme amount of healing that is available to your team. This is also an extreme amount of healing that is available to your team. This is also an extreme amount of healing that is available to your team. Like, all of these things are that. But okay, we have an extreme amount of healing available to our team, so we're probably trying to play a brawl comp. Anna can support people on off angles, that sort of thing. That does help. Moira can't really peel for Anna. Okay. Anna would like a little peel help more than Bap would like some peel help. Okay. What's the plan, guys? Like, we can support off-angle brawling a little bit, but we don't have speed. Anna doesn't get the peel that she wants. We're just going with an extreme amount of healing. If we want an extreme amount of healing to sort of be like, hey, extreme amount of healing, that's how we win. We've got this comp right here as our option. So, like, extreme amount of healing does better over here. This almost certainly looks like it wants to brawl, but it doesn't have speed. Speed is quite nice in a brawl. If you're instead going with healing as your, we're not doing speed because our team doesn't know how to use it type thing, and the other team is also playing brawl, so the other team is playing brawl. They haven't figured out how to kite us because it's ladder, so of course they haven't figured out how to kite us with their Lucio and get their ults first. Well, okay, that puts us in a situation where, again, this becomes the best comp to play of the options that we've listed here. Definitely not this. And again, if you were to see this comp, You would expect divers to start picking on your Anna or start picking on your Moira. Your Anna, Moira comes to help and immediately gets destroyed because she faded in, or Moira's there to start, go towards Anna, immediately put pressure on Moira, she leaves, and then fight Anna type thing. Like, you don't even need full dives. 2 divers can do this pretty effectively. Does Nano call up the healing? No. No. Okay. So now we move on to our last section. And this I'm going to call the Lost at Hero Select section. No, you didn't actually lose the match at Hero Select. Yes, you can win with these things, but most of these are going to be your supports have decided either, well, people aren't helping me, people aren't peeling, so I'm going to play these heroes where I don't need peel. Or they're the case of, well, these are the only heroes that we play, whatever, or they straight just locked these heroes before there was any pressure on them, and you just have to be sad. Most of these run into an issue of it. You're going to see a lot of double support here. You're going to see a lot of heroes that are interested in being able to protect themselves or protect each other quite well, but don't offer enough power to the battlefield. You don't have a Discord Orb. You don't have Bapt's damage pressure. You don't have what was I going to put here? The high amounts of healing. You don't have the pressure that the game requires. You just have either really good self-survivability or the ability to protect your other support pretty well. And stacking a lot of that kind of leaves the other 4 members of your team out there to rot without enough power to win the game a lot of the time. Can you still win? Of course you can still win. You can absolutely still win. We've seen situations where Merciana can be pretty darn good. It can be pretty annoying for teams to figure out, wait, who are we even supposed to go after in this situation? Is Brig a dive target? Yeah, she is. That sort of thing. Like, it can be weird, or like you do this with a McCree or something like that, and it's like there's double stun, but we have to dive it before forcing stuff. Like, this is awkward. You can see things like this, but this overall is not a terribly good composition. Once teams figure it out, it falls apart pretty quickly. This is a situation where, okay, McCree or Brig's big value isn't so much her own survivability, it's her ability to peel for other people. Mercy shouldn't need someone peeling for her in this situation. One of Mercy's benefits is, Mercy is slippery. Mercy gets away. Mercy doesn't really need a ton of peel from her team. That's why she has that guardian angel. She has the self-healing. Great. Mercy doesn't need much. So running a hero that is, I'm going to peel for my other support particularly well, not amazing. Could you ever bodyguard someone else, like a McCree, like a Hanzo, something like that. Yeah, you could, but it's not amazing. Really, she's generally in the best role, and most of those heroes would prefer, rather than a bodyguard, something like a Mercy to boost them, or something like a Zen to give them a Harmony Orb and a Damage Orb on their target, that sort of thing. So, not a great combination. From here, we move on to Moyer Brig. This is much the same thing. Moira doesn't need protection. Moira doesn't need protection. Usually when this comp comes out, it's a case of, hey, it's got 2 places it could show up. It could show up because, hey, it's basically them going, we're playing something like Moira Lucio or something like Lucio Mercy, where no one can get on our supports and we want to be safe, and the person still has this belief that Brig is safe. Brig is not safe fighting flankers, not without help. With help, she's pretty great at fighting flankers. A Harmony Orb and Anna shot, she's pretty great at fighting them. By herself, she's not that amazing at fighting things like Tracer. They will take her apart. Yeah, not amazing, but you can have the misconception of these are heroes that we should play of, well, now no one's going to pick on me, no one's going to bother me type thing. And, okay, that's cool and all, but you don't have enough power. Your offensive power is you can do some good tank healing with Moira, and your Brig can offer some repair packs to your DPS. That's just not enough in terms of supporting your team to actually win the game. I would much rather even a Lucio Moira in that situation, because at least you have a way to win. You have power in the brawl in that situation. Or, you get a Mercy in there and you've got a damage boost. Okay, at least you have some power to win the game in that situation. Okay, then we move on to Zen Moira. This comp is completely different than really the other 4 here. These are just heroes that don't combine well. Like these other four, I would say, hey, it's basically double main support, and double main support, you've gone too much in on peeling. You haven't given your team enough power to win the game. You're not actually supporting your team well enough. You're playing a support role, and you're being too selfish in your picks between the two of you. This is not being too selfish in your picks between the two of you. This is just these two have zero synergy. Zen is like, yeah, cool. I have Discord Orb. I have damage. I guess I can help the people on the off angles. That's cool. While Moira can help the people on the main angles. But Zen should just get eliminated on cooldown. Zen should just get eliminated in cooldown on this comp. Moira can't protect her adequately. She's not terribly good at that. Moira doesn't really want to hang out where Zen wants to hang out most of the time. Zen could walk in the way Moira wants to walk in to be able to heal, and Zen will in some Zen ball combinations do that when he has a Brig. But ultimately, this is not Moira can't protect him as well as a Brig can, not even close. And they want to play in different places. Moira is not very good at peeling for Zen. If you see this combination, you guys should figure out how to eliminate Zen on cooldown. If people don't pick on Zen, sure, this combination can work fine because Moira supports the core, the tank line, whatever. Zen supports the off angle. You have a Discord Orb. You have plenty of power to win the match in this setup, but your Zen is just a free pick at this point. Nordstrom says, at Temporal, let's be real. People in ranked think Brig can go in front of her own Reinhardt and fight enemy Reinhardt. Yeah. She can't, though. Eventually they learn. Eventually. Then we move on to this. And I thought this was going to be last on my list. Before I actually pulled out all the heroes and did my list of the hero combinations. And the truth is, this has seen play. This has seen play professionally. This has seen play and organized. This has its use. And its use, of course, is, well, we are the support line that is completely undiveable. And completely undiveable support line with a bunch of other heroes that are completely undiveable. So that would be Ball, Diva, Echo, Tracer, just as an example. You could use a Pharaoh, you could use a Winston. I don't really care. It can create situations where opposing dive or brawl comps simply don't know who to get on. They don't know who to get on. They can't figure out who to get on. There's no Zen anchoring your comp. There's no Brig anchoring your comp. There's no Anna anchoring your comp. There's no Sigma anchoring your comp. There's no one that they can just go, oh, we take the comp apart by attacking their immobile situation and making their divers come to us. We take that hero out. The divers come to us to try to protect them. Now they don't have cooldowns and we can fight them. So they're used for that specifically. But this comp fully relies on no one ever getting caught. Do you trust your ladder buddies to never get caught? Buddies. Do you trust your ladder enemies that happen to be on your team to never get caught? I certainly don't. And that's because it doesn't happen. So this can work. This support combination can work, but everyone has to be on divers and no one has to get caught. And you also have to figure out how you're going to cycle the point to not give up objective pressure. So ball on, ball off, tracer on, tracer off, diva touches and then boosters off, that sort of thing. Because you've got to go, hey, our pressure isn't that high. We don't have a Discord Orb. We don't have Bapt damage. We don't have anti-nades. We do have Mercy boost, but we don't have much healing available for our team because Mercy has to be, for us to have enough pressure, Mercy has to be boosting our Echo, our Pharah, something like that, not healing. We have to stall point long enough for our pressure to work out, for us to be able to win fights, be that a control point, be that not letting a cart move too far, whatever the case is. Or just fighting against the timer. If you're on offense, for example, and trying to move the cart, you have to wipe the other team, and you have to be able to wipe them or eliminate them hard enough that you can clean up the fight in a real brawl with no real brawl strength, that sort of thing. And to do that, you need the damage pressure of Mercy being on damage boost most of the time. So that means, again, you need to stall point effectively, you need to not require a lot of healing for your team, no one needs to make a mistake, not have their abilities, and get dove. I'm not counting on my team to do that on ladder. That said, if you have a super mobile comp, this isn't necessarily a throw pick for supports. If you have anyone on your team comp who is immobile, you are betraying your team as a support line by running this. And this is not me being like, oh, maybe the other person, I blame the supports, maybe the other person should switch. Okay, maybe, but you are flat out demanding that your team play mobile heroes fully if you run this support combination. So like if you want to take the stance of no, it's my team's fault, they could be flexible instead of me, we should run these things, I guess that's fine, but like they have to run full mobile heroes with this, and that's why this is a comp that rightfully causes people to groan when they see it on ladder. So I can link this video when I report Lucio Mercy supporters throwing for leaving spawn with that comp. Fine with me. Fine with me. Okay. And then we get to our weakest support combination, and I know some of you are going to be aware that this comp has been run professionally. Third Impact, back when they were a good contenders team, that was true for a while, did run this support combination, and they were a terror with this support combination, plus an extremely skilled McCree. That's not going to surprise you too much because you're going to go, okay, Brig plus McCree, yeah, Brig plus McCree, double stun, that's not wild. There's almost no sustain available in this comp. It's a very similar issue to what we had previously with the Zen Lucio comp. There's almost no sustain, so if your team is making staging mistakes, they get caught, they can't come back for it. These look like brawl supports, because they are, but you can't actually brawl if you're using both of them, because, wait a second, Brig wants to brawl, Lucio enables Brawl, but these two don't work together because Brawl just takes more pressure than that. It requires more healing. Fights will resolve too quickly in a Brawl, and this combination will lose if this is what's supporting your Brawl. So it can't really be a Brawl. It actually has to be more of a, we're going to kite away from you and poke, or we're going to kite and then dive sort of thing. It has to be something like that, but it doesn't have the healing to, if any mistakes are made, keep up, and it doesn't have the damage power of like a Mercy or a Zen to speed up your poke phase, to go, hey, we're pushing back hard, that sort of thing. So this wins the crown as the worst support comp, generally speaking. Yes, I know, it's really weird to put a comp that was run professionally by a team to great success as the worst comp, but that is not the norm. Most people are not going to be able to exercise it, just like this comp can also be run professionally. These are not top tier professional comps. These are very rare professional comps. And I would not consider them, they're definitely not mainstream. They're definitely not, the best things. They have places where they've seen use. They are also the worst comps to be running on ladder. So that's sort of the presentation. I'm going to catch up on chat. I'm not going to read through everything that happened in chat because we've already done an hour and I'm not even sure all of it will be there anymore. But this is what we're looking at in terms of how I would rate the comps. Again, things you would consider if you were looking through this and went, wait, okay, but this is organized play, ladder solutions, lost it hero select. I would mostly consider these organized play comps better. Like these are asterisks. I would mostly consider these better than the comps that we are seeing in the sub tiers below here. I would consider this the top tier, with the exception of this is going to be really hard to run. This is mostly not going to be run in the correct situations. And so you could move them down a tier. You could even move this down to the bottom of the next tier because it's that hard to run, and put it like here. Maybe I wouldn't put it exactly there, but I'd move that down pretty seriously. I would move this one down moderately, probably to the middle of this tier. And then here, these two could go up to organized play, but only for organized play. Like for regular ladder play, these two belong down here where they are. So, if you guys have final questions, thoughts, chat, want to challenge me, that sort of thing, absolutely do so. Chat is there. I will start somewhat backwards catching up on chat here. Celeste asks, Temporal, is Soldier considered mobile hero? Is he submissive and diveable? I don't know if submissive is the right word to use here, says Nardstrom, and Mercedes says, I don't know if diveable is the right word to use here. Okay, so Soldier is Soldier is a jack of all trades. He can be diveable. Yes, sprint is good. He's generally not your preferred dive target if there's better options because sprint can be annoying. But if you've properly encircled him, sprint doesn't like instantly get him away. It doesn't explosively get him away the way a Winston leap does, the way tracer blinks do. Like he's fast, but if you've properly surrounded him, it doesn't actually matter that much that he's fast. And for proper dives, you should surround someone. That said, sometimes things get forced, sometimes tempo happens. He's not most people's favorite target to dive. He's generally not the weak point that you'd pick on. Generally, you'd find a Sigma, a Brig, a Zen, an Anna, an isolated McCree. Things like that are preferable dive targets. What new support ability archetypes or abilities or archetypes would you like to see in future heroes? That's too hard of a question. I wouldn't mind another builder support, but I wouldn't want a builder that's like let's build things that do damage. I would like, and maybe this fits better in the tank category. It probably does. I would like to see a little bit more geometry transformation of the form of Maywall, but that probably fits more in the tank category than it does the support category. Soldier with Lucio is very fast, though. That is true. You can do creative things with the push-up emote. Yeah. Uh, Full mobile is indeed a lot of fun if your team cannot throw. Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, though. You're counting on a lot of things to go right there. Your tanks and DPS are correctly alternating, contesting points without giving up, without letting it move too much. You're doing enough damage to the opposing team without letting them stabilize, because if they're able to break line of sight and stabilize and start recovering resources, you've got to spend forever again softening them up again. And you don't soften them up terribly fast because you don't have anti-nades, you don't have discord, you don't have Bapt damage. Mercy, if she's having to spend a lot of time healing, isn't doing the damage boost. She needs to be doing the damage boost. Lucio Mercy makes me cry. I will never let it happen in your support games. Good for you, Semitic. Good for you. Lucio Mercy, DPS and tanks, please carry while we are bait. I mean, you can say that, but you're not helping them. You might be going, oh, we're bait, but the opponents should recognize that you're hard to go after, and they should instead take straight out fights with your DPS and tanks because you can't support them well enough. Like, Lucio and Mercy can't offer enough power to their team. They're not supporting their team members well enough. They're supporting themselves and each other, which doesn't really work. You need your support to contribute more than that. Especially if you have a Reddit style Lucio. Okay. Moira Brig is the nobody cares about our existence, and the enemy is playing dive ladder comp. Yeah, that's about right, but again, your team doesn't have enough power with it. I feel like the support passive of Overwatch 2 is going to make Mercy pointless. I don't know. It's going to depend how much value we end up seeing out of Res. Is Res going to be impossible to get off or very powerful in 5v5? Ash getting all the love in the world with a Brig Mercy. Something like that, yeah. Could some of these support combos be considered more relevant depending on your tank combination? Absolutely. Like, I put these up here. I do not really want to be running Zen Brig with a Reinhardt, for example. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world to run with a Reinhardt, but I don't really want to be doing it. Reinhardt kind of demands his Lucio, unless the other team is foolish enough to not bring a Lucio with their Reinhardt, in which case, oh, hey, you can maybe get away without it, though Lucio can still do a lot to help in that situation. But yes, these absolutely have things where they have preferred tanks and not tanks. Like, again, we look at this Lucio Mercy combination, or this Moira Lucio combination. Okay, that doesn't really work if we have things that don't work with that. Like, aha, we have our Lucio Moira combination with our Orisa. What? Orisa wants a poke phase, Moira doesn't. Lucio helps your Orisa stay away from a brawl comp a little bit longer, I suppose, but not really, because Orisa has anti-synergy with Lucio, with how she puts shield downs, with how she slows herself down while firing, that sort of thing. So absolutely, these are support comps, and you should understand where these support comps want to use. This is for dive comps and poke dive comps. This is for brawl comps. This is for mostly poke comps, but could work for hardened brawl comps. This is mostly these days optimally used for Winston-style dive or dive poke comps. This is going to be, again, poke comps or dive poke comps. This is going to be for poke comps. This is brawl or brawl dive hybrid, really 6-man. This is for 6-man. I'll be more generic on these because now we're into things that are more purely ladder. And you can use these a little outside their specialty, but don't go too far outside their specialty. They do specific things. This this is okay. I mean, this is actually pretty okay, well-rounded for everything. It's not the best poke comp in the world, but it's got a lot of brawl power. It also supports divers pretty well for a poke dive hybrid type thing. It's not amazing in a full poke battle. Anna's okay at that, but it's not her best thing. This is a pretty well-rounded thing. It's pretty good in poke battles. Okay. This is pretty flexible. If you have the Mercy, you're leaning a bit towards poke. You're not really trying to hard brawl. Please don't run Anna Pharmacy Reinhardt comps. They're not good. Please don't run Bapt Pharmacy Rein comps. They're also not good. But this is a pretty flexible comp. This is a greedy comp where your backline needs to be protected, but it has plenty of power to support really any tank line, and it would even work with an Orisa comp. This is flexible. You wouldn't run it with full brawl. You really wouldn't run this with brawl that much because, again, Mercy just has nowhere to go. And if you have one off-angling person for her to work with, she just doesn't love that. One serious off-angling person, like a McCree, like a Hanzo, that sort of thing. Obviously, your brawl comp should still take angles, but they're softer angles. This is, again, looking to brawl, isn't really looking for a dive comp, isn't really looking for a poke comp. This kind of demands a brawl. This would be for a dive or a brawl comp. It would be worse into a poke comp. It's okay as a poke comp. This would be this. You're gonna struggle in brawl. You're gonna struggle in brawl on ladder with this. This would more be a poke fighting brawl type comp. This is somewhat flexible. Again, please don't run Reinhardts with pharmacies. You've got to brawl. If you're bringing this much healing, you've got to brawl. And then we talked about what these have to run, so I'm not really worried about that. Brig Mercy happens all the time when I switch to Brig, so I just pick Lucio and make the game finish faster. Brig Mercy happens all the time when you pick Brig. I can see that. So you just pick Lucio and make the game finish faster? Yeah. We're going from bad to worse in that situation. You can play Anna. I know you can. You could do it. Up to you, though. I'm also not saying you have to. Like, you can one-trick your hero. I do not have issues if people one-trick their heroes. I do not have issues. Like, I know I've been pretty tough on supports picking combinations that make it very, very hard for their team to win. But if you're good enough, you're still going to win. And if you're a Lucio that is just constantly going, hey, I got the speed boost on Reinhardt where it mattered. I repositioned my McCree into the spot that mattered. I dumped this person into the pit. My beat saved 2 people's life. That sort of thing. And I'm doing the ult tracking for my team. I'm telling them exactly what's going to beat them. If you're doing enough, you're still going to win. So, and one tricking is a good way to practice your heroes. Okay, let me just check one more time here, and then I'll jump back to current. Question: I instant lock Mercy on ladder when I see ball on the other team. I like to counterpick with Brig, but if the other player takes the Mercy pick, I can switch back to Mercy. I can't switch back to Mercy after no ball. Then I feel the need to intentionally sabotage the game to punish my own team. Don't do that. Literally don't do that. Like, don't sabotage your own team. You're going to be stuck with those players longer if you do that, whereas if you win the games you're in, you'll leave those players behind. Seriously. You named your Pokemon Sea Launcher? Is that a Pokemon? Sorry, I don't know all of them. Nano Moira? Nice, nice. Okay, let's jump back to current. If we ban Lucio, what's the best support combo for a Reinhardt? If you ban Lucio, what's the best support combo for a Reinhardt? Your two real options become this and this. It's tough to play Reinhardt, though, if Lucio is banned in organized play. On ladder, you can get away with either of these pretty well, but these become your best two. This would be we're worried about dive comps, that sort of thing, but we somehow think we're going to rotate on them eventually. This would be more we're fighting other brawl comps, or we're just going to sustain through stupid amounts of poke, that sort of thing. You just don't play Ryan if Lucio is banned. Right answer. Two trick Mercy and Lucio, so when you hit the one tricks for each of them to make sure you always have a Mercy Lucio. No, 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 don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. I think that's going to do it. If you guys have any final questions, please throw them up there. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do drop a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. I'll probably do one of these for tank combinations as well in the next week or two, so stay on the lookout for that. Again, if you're subscribed, you'll see that. The other way to get stuff, I do recommend subscribing, is to join my Discord in the description below, where I do Overwatch coaching. We have a fun community for six-man scrims, things like that. But you can also see what I'm going live to stream to talk about, that sort of thing. I will ping watchers. You can become a watcher if you want just by reacting with an emote in there. And then you can see, hey, is this a topic that you want to watch, that you want to see? Do you go, hey, I want to know when this tank combo list comes out so that I can talk about it and say, no, Temporal, you're wrong. Roadhog Sigma is an amazing combination, and I want to tell you why. If you want to be here to do that, best thing to do is join my Discord in the description below, and then react to become a watcher, so you get pings, see what we are covering. You're software banning Ryan with a Lucio ban. Yep. Good idea for a vid, but don't do this for tanks, as you clearly think Zarya is awful C tier garbage. DPS combo video would go on forever. I don't know that a DPS combo makes sense, not because there's too many of them, but because DPS don't have the synergy benefits or needs with each other that supports and tanks do. Tanks probably have it to the greatest degree, supports to a lesser degree, but supports do have it. DPS really care a lot less about what their DPS partner is. Like a lot less. Do this for tanks. I expect we will in the next couple weeks. Okay, that's going to do it. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.